Hi, Adam, Barry, good to see you. Hope you're both
too.
well. So outsourcing hotels, the view is this is going to be a market that's going to really see some growth during the course of the year. And you are, because you've got prospects coming out all across Europe, haven't you?
We have, yes.
Put out. I thought you were going to just be silent on me there for a second.
It's Friday. It's time to make this a bit of a. Let's cheer everyone up. A bit of positivity. Come on.
Leave me hanging. Don't worry about it. No, sorry. So it's interesting. You've got opportunities that are coming up right literally across both UK and Europe at the moment.
Yeah, very much so. And I think Sorry.
What kind of feedback are you getting?
Mixed. I think there's definitely and you know this only too well, the cycle of hotels doing it themselves and then going to the outsource market and then going to a bigger key player is always turning. I think we're suddenly at that bit, which is nice for us, where the outsourced market is starting to see that, we could come in and help generate good revenues, but actually be a bit of a backbone to what the rest of their operation, because we don't, certainly in our operations, we're not there to service the bedrooms or look after the hotel from that perspective. We see it from a completely different angle on the food and beverage service side. So I think it's an opening door, and certainly in the European sector, which we've been working on for about the last year, that seems to be gathering a bit of momentum.
It's not just, it's quite interesting. You're getting approaches now from provincial hotels wanting to do something different, aren't you? Obviously, the European hotels wanting to look at how they can outsource, and also corporate hotels looking to see how they can offer better services, which is what makes it quite exciting, isn't it?
I think it does make it very exciting in a sense that, from what hotels used to be, and I started my career in a restaurant hotel, and when I look back to how they've developed to where they are now, but from the hotel groups that we've been speaking to, and and over the years, kind of having conversations with and watching the marketplace, it's interesting to see how they're actually self-admitting now that actually what they do well is hotels and rooms and looking after the guests on that part of the journey. From the food and beverage experience, they now want to bring somebody in, and whilst they've been looking at mainstream brands, they're also talking with people like us then to create something different. And I think it's also not as well about bringing a Michelin star chef in, and I've worked in that avenue before for many years, whereas it's about a lifestyle experience that they're wanting.
But when you say lifestyle experience, what does that mean, particularly in this market?
Well, I think in properties that I've worked, and one of the groups that I worked for, it was probably the first time I came into that lifestyle experience where it's not just a service, being a restaurant, that I need to come in, I need to have a meal, steak and chips and a beer or a glass of wine, and then I move on. You create the whole experience. It's that journey where it's a destination, not only from the guests inside the hotel, but it's a destination to bring in people from outside the hotel as well, to that businessman who thinks, actually, I want to go and meet at that place because they have a great place for breakfast. And then they end up staying for their lunch meeting, of which then leads into early cocktails, and it goes into an evening dinner. That's a lifestyle experience. And for us, it is that entire capacity of how we feel that day and how that day turns into night, and then that the laptops close at 5 o'clock and the lights are down, the music's then set at the right, we look at the music levels, the candles go on the table, and then they order their first gin and tonic, and then away we go.
That's always interesting, isn't it? What's the view about food and beverage now? How's food changing? How's the view towards food changing? Are you seeing a change in how people are viewing it?
I think from a food point of view, everybody's looking at the next best thing probably is a wrong word, actually. It's everyone's looking to be creative in doing something different. I always still say the simpler things are coming back. Even in fine dining, you look at what's on the plate, but value for money, I think is important on that point as well. People are eating out a lot more, and I think once we get through this crap of the COVID, I think people are going to eat out a lot more. I think the market's going to be massive as people head out. They've been saving money, hopefully, and so you know what offer is out there. It's not just about a simple bacon and egg in the morning for breakfast and sausage and mash for lunch, and pardon my expression for some of the simplest terms, but actually what is that? What's that point of difference? How those menus evolve and change. You know, I remember working over the years at some restaurants, they change maybe twice a year. Some menus change twice a year, 4 times if you were lucky. You know, for us now, the menus are constantly evolving. They could change weekly. You know, what we do, you know, within the properties now is if, you know, a dish needs changing, it's changed immediately. It's not held out for 3 to 6 months until we do the next menu change. So everything's got to be about a point of difference, and you've got to be watching the market constantly.
All right, let's talk about some specifics. The Cavendish, you took on the Cavendish last year. Cavendish has got a great history, founded by Rosa Lewis over all those years ago. How's that going? It's obviously a central Mayfair location. How are you finding that?
Look, I think like every major city, I think London will bounce back, but it's going to bounce back probably a lot slower than the what I'd class as the peripherals. The Cavendish for us was just iconic. It was something that we felt would be excessively good for our portfolio. It would ideally situated, you know, the back end of Mayfair, Jermyn Street, you know, it'd be beautiful. And, you know, nestled within that street alone is just a hive of activity on a normal day. So we've got to hope that when we get back to normality, we can get the Cavendish back to probably where it was, you know, a good sort of 18 months ago. You know, we're about to embark on a mini refit to make sure that the restaurant and the bar and the lounge area is in good stead, and we've got some little bits and pieces up our sleeve that we're going to be incorporating into it, which we can't really talk about just yet, because we want to make sure that the Cavendish sort of has a bit of a regen of the food and beverage there, and we're you know, picking some of the old ways of service mixed with some new style of service as well, so that it's got a fair balance. But just going back to Barry's point, one of the things that we talk to hoteliers about, and this is what we're trying to incorporate into the Cavendish as well, is that, you know, lose the name that you've got a lobby. Get rid of the lobby, because you haven't got a lobby. You've actually got a lounge. And if you make that the lounge, you then suddenly from entrance create the experience. But if you create it with a lobby, then they just go straight to the check-in and find out what room they're going to, and everything else gets lost. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a bit of an experience at the Cavendish. And I think during lockdown, it's allowed us to revisit things. It's allowed us to look at what we've been doing there, what was happening in the past. And it's certainly allowed us to reimagine it for the future, which we hope in the next couple of weeks we'll be able to share with everybody that you know, some of the grand designs that we're going to be doing.
That's very good. And Brighton, you're taking an operation off down in Brighton as well.
Brighton, we're super excited about. We're excited about all of them. But Brighton, we've been working in and around Brighton for about 3 years now, on and off, looking at different projects. And you know, give credit to the landlord. You know, they've been exceptionally good with us over the 3 years in terms of some of the sites we've been looking at. And this one in the right in the middle of the lanes came up, and it was just absolutely to die for. And yeah, we fought a pretty hard battle. We managed to sign it, I think, the week during Christmas or pre-Christmas. And you know, the landlord will be finishing their bits probably end of this month, beginning of February, as in next week, and then we'll get in and start doing our bits. And you know, we're just looking forward to a good open down in Brighton. It's got one of our new brands that we've been working on in the background that we're putting in there. But that brand itself, once we've got that up and running, we also see as a very good hotel brand as well. It can be, everything we're creating at the moment can be lifted to be put into other restaurants or other hotels that have got the same sort of space and that have the same interests as we do in terms of engaging with that customer and making that an experience rather than just an overnight stay.
Now, COVID has been remarkably tough on everybody. It's been particularly tough, I think, on young businesses growing, because you were building a great momentum coming into COVID. And it must have been heartbreaking to see the kind of pressures that put you under as you've gone through this. How has it changed you and how has it impacted on you?
I'll go first and then I'll hand over to Barry. It's, yeah. I mean, we were treading, we talk about this in this story, we were treading the sidewalks in London for the first year trying to set this business up. And we had some pretty big ups and downs through that as well, which, challenged us without a doubt. And then suddenly we found this path and we got a little bit of momentum and everything started reasonably slotting into place, which was quite nice. And then COVID came about. And interestingly, I think that, back in March of last year, the first 2 weeks, I was probably dazed and not understanding what was going on, to be honest. And then you wake up and think, okay, all I can hear outside is birds and there's no planes and cars and I can go for a walk and people will say hello. And then 10 months on, we're back in another lockdown where it's dark, dingy, raining. No one wants to talk to you. All I can hear is cars, planes, and you don't know whether people are going back to work or what they're doing, and the whole thing's upside down. And I don't think I don't think I'd be human if I didn't say that during this period, I've had my own sort of down days. I think we probably all have, where you've woken up and thought, wow, what's all this for? But we mustn't forget in the background what we've been working for. And it's taken us 3 years to get to where we've got to. And we've had some pretty good people that have stayed on the journey with us to get it to this level. And our hearts are telling us we're on the cusp, even though we're in the middle of a pandemic. And this cusp, we've got to get over this because we've got something that others will probably want in 6 months' time. And we don't want to lose that.
Barry?
Well, I mean, I echo a lot of what Adam said. I mean, I do think, when it first happened, I mean, I remember watching at home on Friday night when Boris said, right, as of midnight tonight, everything closes. And we could have never fathomed that this would ever happen in our life, and that actually it would come to literally everything shutting down apart from a garage and a supermarket. And you go into it, and I think once it got past the shock of actually, well, this is actually now happening, and then you think, well, it is nice weather and you can just have some downtime and regroup. And I think the thing was that it gave you a lot of time to think, actually probably too much time to think. And you got to get away from all the darkness of what you're thinking about, well, what if and what's going to happen? Is it all just going to collapse around us as in our businesses collectively? And I think, for us, it's about looking at the positive, what can we do and what can we hold on to? I think the fact that for us, in a sense, it was a younger part of where the business was sitting. If we'd have got multiple sites fully open of where we'd wanted to be maybe a year earlier, it might have changed for us quite dramatically and it would have been a lot more pressure. But actually, we've stuck with it. We've remained positive throughout and we've remained fighting through, actually. And whilst lockdown's happening and things are closed, people are still talking and people are still wanting things and people are still looking at new ideas and actually probably a good time for these other companies and hotel groups. It's their time where they're rethinking their businesses as well. And at that point, then they are picking up the phone or dropping that email and talking to people like us. And, I think there is a lot of positive going to come out of this, even on those darkest days. It was, what can we do, not what's going to happen.
Now, how do you see the year plan out for you? Because actually, we're locked down to March at best. Then the argument is we're going to tier systems. How do you see things planning out for how you're building the business?
Well, I think everyone's got their own opinions in terms of what they think this is going to pan out like. I'd like to stay on the sort of the positive side of the, with the news that we received today or late last night that there's another vaccine that's going to hit the market, which will, do X, Y, Z.
Which is better than the last vaccine.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure in 2 weeks' time there'll be another vaccine.
I mean, better again.
the fact that Barry was telling me this morning, I mean, which gives me complete, you know, I was in awe this morning when he told me that his local Asda were getting rid of all the clothes section and turning it into a vaccine centre upstairs on the escalators is great. So I'm going to get my eggs, bread and a quick vaccine. You know, I'll be done and dusted for £2.50. Look, I think, you know, if you'd asked me the same question at Christmas, I think we were, you know, whilst we were talking to people and we just got the news that we'd signed Brighton, we were happy, but we were very nervous. I think a month on, January, we're still talking to people and people are now coming to us and saying, would you like to have a look at this? I think what will change the landscape over the next 12 months to make it all a little bit more positive for everyone is that, you know, we've seen in the last 10 days, 2 weeks, a number of new vehicles coming together, to whether they're going out and buying village pubs or they're going out and buying restaurants or just bars. And that gives the hospitality business, it's got to give it a bit of a boost, because there is money out there waiting to come back into this. And it's been dreadful for all of us. You know, we can all moan about our own little businesses, but behind our hospitality businesses are a number of suppliers that have also had exactly the same issue as we've had and lost out. So I'd like to think that come March, we get back into some sort of flow. They don't know whether there's going to be a tier system or not. If it is a tier system, I hope it's a tier system that works fully for everyone and gives us all a bit of a push start out there. We just know, and you know, Barry and I talk about this almost every day. We just know we've got to start trading. You know, we can't sit behind these blind doors anymore. You know, they need to get open, and we need to get things moving. Yeah. And I think we've got to get that open for everybody's sake.
But one of the real trends you can see that people want, not brands, but actually in real experiences again, which must be plain. I mean, that's what I've noticed, that people don't want conversations about brands in the same way they did before. They want to talk about the guest experience and how to actually really engage customers.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, no, I agree, wholeheartedly agree with that. You know, I don't go to brands as such, you know, in restaurant anyway, when I go out.
McDonald's every night.
Oh dear, thank you, Adam. I think people do want experiences, and I think, you know, Adam and I have come from an interesting word that we often refer to when we come to meet people. We come from hospitality, and it's about delivering hospitality, and it's about delivering an experience that, you know, where you remember people and you know something about them, whether that's that favorite drink that they like, that famous bottle of wine, and the whole experience of that dinner, that afternoon tea, even as far as that experience at the bar and the lounge and small plates and the effort that goes into that. And we really kind of go into all of that experience. And when we're designing menus and designing drinks and designing a package for an experience, it is important, and people are looking for it far more, and value for money as well within that. But, you know, they will pay if they've had a great experience.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that's what's really interesting. I've had loads of conversations over the last week or so where people say we just don't want corporate. We want something that's going to focus on the customer. And the whole piece about experience and the service piece is really coming back into narrative, isn't it? In a big way.
It is.
And it is. I think
sorry, John, Barry first and then Adam.
All right.
Sorry, Barry,
yeah. Sorry, you know, the thing about customer service and experience is, for me, growing up, because I grew up in a hospitality family, you know, I remember the old days of the maitre d', you know, that, and when we walked into a place, how he knew my dad by his name, and I was in awe of that. And I think, you know, over the years as I progressed through hospitality, it is about understanding what true service is actually all about. And there's not, you know, there are a lot of places, but there are also not a lot of great places that are actually doing it at the moment. And, you know, you can go to, and I hate to say this, you can go to some great restaurants that are up on the 5-star Michelin star level that don't give that element of great service. And actually there's a difference.
I think it's a bit deeper than that though, isn't it? People are looking for a personal connection. That's what I'm finding.
Yes, yeah, that's a good way of saying it.
Because as we're all stuck in this, people are desperate to find, how do I connect with restaurants or whoever? And even in emails, people are opening up in a way they've never opened up previously, which makes it very different.
Well,
true.
We took a lot of it away from them. You know, for the last, I'm not saying it's wrong, but for the last 12 months, we've asked everyone to order off a telephone. You know, come into a restaurant, sit there, order off a telephone, even though the member of staff's over there in the corner, and then they bring it over to you, you know, fully geared up with headgear, and hand it to you 3 foot away, and you take it. I think you know, everyone's missing that social interaction. And I think everyone respects the fact that we are where we are today, and we need to all do our bit to get over this and get over it in a sensible way. But at the same time, I think everyone's now starting to think about, once we've got past that, how do we get into that social interaction again that works? Because I don't think, personally, I don't think hospitality will go back to being hospitality as it was 2 years ago straight away. And they could impose the 2 meter rule again, and so on and so forth. But you know, I think we've got to work with that. We've got to stretch our barriers to make sure that works for all of us. And I think, you know, earlier from what Barry was saying, you know, the one word I'd add into the middle of all that is, I think clients are looking for flexibility. I think they're looking for a partner that is flexible. You can put any brand in anywhere, but when it's fixed and it only does the 7 things on the menu, and it can't change the till without head office changing it, and it can't do this and it can't do that, that's not flexible in today's market. And today's market has shown with COVID how flexible we need to be, and how adaptable we need to be able to make our own offers.
Isn't it? Look, we've known each other for a number of years. Isn't the point that you've always loved the customer experience and focusing on how to engage customers and growing revenue through customer coming back and spending more money, and you've never been one to actually just rest on the laurels? And actually, people have been quite lazy in some ways, companies, and we're having to work harder now and how we engage customers. Isn't
I mean,
what helps?
Totally. I think, you know, in my world, you know, customer service is a given. You know, we shouldn't have to say that, guess what we're going to do as a company? We're going to give you customer service. You know, because the client should actually, well, hang on, I'm paying for that. It's a given. But we need to, you know, make sure that our training is second to none. Our maitre d's understand the floor. Our hostesses understand about working it. Everybody within any part of that restaurant organization, even the hotel food and beverage organization, understands how each of those very different levels works. And if you've got a flexible client in terms of the premises that you're working within, and they give you some overarching riders to get on and deliver what the experience and what the speciality is, you can do it. When you're slightly governed, then they take that little bit away from you. So you need to find the client that matches where you are as well, and the client that actually really wants exceptional customer service. Because when you deliver hospitality, which is completely different to delivering a service, you can have great staffing, a great relationship, fantastic customers, good spend, and just an extremely good business. And actually, you know, I was brought up in the old days of Fortes, where they said, you know, manage, you know, worry about, you know, looking after that top line, and the bottom line will look after itself. And, you know, that's what you got to get back to, because the minute we start worrying about the in-between, the top and the bottom don't work.
Yeah, but that's the interesting thing. We're getting back to those basics. That's the really interesting thing. Sorry, Barry, you're going to say something.
No. I agree with Adam. I'm just saying on that. It is interesting how that, and what he said about where they start worrying about the wrong things, and actually what, you know, great service should be about. And it's interesting with the clients that, you know, that we can speak to. What can quite often be is they want somebody in to come and deliver something new and an outside source and everything else. And then once that outside source comes in and starts setting up and doing what we should be doing or they should be doing, then the client actually, but we used to do it this way, but we used to do it that way. And actually, you know, what is needed from some of these guys is actually, you want to bring in great service and you want to bring in that whole experience, that lifestyle experience and the whole package, then you've got to give them the reins and let them do the job.
Now, I know you're very excited about your European opportunities. How do you feel about that? Because obviously it must be a bit strange. You're stuck in lockdown in the UK, you've got UK operations growing, and there you are looking at Europe at the same time. And the atmosphere between the UK and Europe is a bit interesting as well at the moment.
Yeah. Look, it came about many months ago, and we've been working with this particular client just at looking at, you know, some different options, and then it sort of evolved, and it wasn't a quick decision about, yes, let's do it because it'll be right for us. But actually, when we went out and visited the cities, you know, we sort of, you know, we fell in love with them in some respect. And actually, as the engagement has gone on, it's made us think about, well, actually, I'm not saying it's not going to be difficult to operate in a European country, but it's also not going to be as hard as we first thought. And if there's one thing that's really helped us, is that during this lockdown period, it allowed us to create some very good back of house content and procedures, and almost the brand manual that allows us to take certain models that we've got, concepts, sorry, that we've got across without having to go across and then restart everything. So it's given us we've had a little bit of time. I mean, we're internally we are nervous about it. We'd be wrong if we didn't say we weren't. But at the same time, you know, it's uberly exciting. The fact that, who would have thought 3 years ago, when we were traipsing London up and down, I think I wore out about 4 pairs of shoes in 4 weeks. You know, it's not like Barry runs around London and drags me around like there's no tomorrow. But you know, who would have thought it? I mean, it wasn't in our mindset. We weren't even thinking. You know, all we were thinking about was the first site and how do we get the first site. And now
you're not the most patient man, are you? If you don't mind me saying. I mean, you make me look pretty patient, and I'm not patient.
I'd like to think I'm very patient, and you know, I rarely lose my temper. I'm pretty good, actually.
Barry, any thoughts on that?
No comment.
I actually go on, Barry.
Go on, Barry, please.
Well, look, I think from a Europe point of view, you know, I remember my days at the One Group, and a company and a brand that had grown as it had at that time, that when we got the nod that we were going to open in Milan, and it was exciting, and you know, and we were opening in another city. And what I took from that is the lessons we learned from that opening. And I think that, you know, having that in the bag now and understanding that has given us good stead and a good foundation to be able to go and do this. Yeah, it is nerve-wracking as well. And, you know, it's different now, because then, you know, you're one of the operators and you're on the ground dealing with it. Whereas when you're stepping back at this point and you're relying on other people to do it, you know, we've got to make sure that we've got everything lined up. And it has allowed us this time to be able to start put the things in place to be able to do this.
Okay. So what's success look for? Like, let's get to the end of the year. What does it look like for you, Barry?
Well, actually, success would be great just to have everything open. I mean, all being well, everything all lines up as the plan is.
So when we say everything, how many operations are we looking at potentially?
Oh, I think by the end of this year, 5, maybe 6, but I'd definitely say 5.
Okay. Adam?
Yeah, look, I echo that. I think we're quite humble people when it comes to the fact, other than the
Sorry,
fact.
what was that? Sorry, I missed that bit.
Quite humble. Just in case you did miss it. You know, even though I am, you know, quite pushy and want everything tomorrow, but I think we would, with the journey that we've been on, if we could get what would ideally suit me in terms of total success, because we are still yet to do it, is it would be very nice to be able to sit somewhere in one of ours at Christmas, having finishing a nice meal with a very good plate of cheese and a couple of glasses of champagne, and raising the glasses to say we got there. I think, you know, we've spent 3 years treading the boards and running around, and Christmases have just been merged into months, and then this year came along and it just got merged into everything. So yeah, if we could get to the point where we've got our vision And our vision is coming to, our vision, people are now starting to see the vision. They're starting to understand it. When we talk to clients about some of the stuff we talk about, they get it. 3 years ago, they could see it was in our heads. I'm not sure they could physically understand it. And we've now got that sort of tempered, and when Brighton opens, you'll see a completely different concept to what you'll see in London, to what you've seen in Manchester. There's lots of things that we've done very quickly.
And that's what's lovely about you both, is actually you're so focused on the experience of the customer, which so many people aren't. And I think that is actually where so many people want to get their properties to. And that's where most of the opportunity goes.
I mean, one of our concepts has even more than most in terms of experiences, which we're getting quite excited about, because that's going to be, taking up a different level. But we're probably too much over the OTT in the right manner, in the fact that Barry gets totally upset if the cup's put at the wrong angle when it's sat in front of him and the teaspoon's the wrong side around, and I'm overly critical about the food, and the fact that if
doesn't Barry do the food?
Sorry? Well, he tries. No, he does. But the beauty of what we do, we both mingle between the two. So
yes.
we don't have, the one thing we never created at the beginning was this hierarchical of management. It is just he and I. And the beauty of what the clients get is, when we say it, when you get to see us, they get to see us. They want to pick up the phone, they pick up the phone.
But in some ways, I know for you, this must have been a painful time, because actually it's been hard to build a team, because you both love working with people.
Yeah.
This period of time must have been remarkably painful. You're trying to build a business and build a team, and seeing the pain they're going through as well.
Well, his team reviews each week are awful. I mean, he won't fill out the forms properly.
I think that the thing with all of this actually is, you've got people sitting around waiting and actually keeping them motivated, that you are going to come back and we're going to be bigger than better, and there are things being planned in the background, and you're having to, they're sitting on furlough, and that's what they're just doing. They're just waiting around. And it's about, the point though is stay in touch with them, and, having that call or that text or that email, that, we are here, and also that you're there for support for them as well. But it is difficult, because, even that point of where we did actually do one team meeting in the summer. It was the end of a Friday. Remember, we all opened our own bottles of wine and sat in the gardens, and it was great. And it wasn't about work, it was just talking and having fun and having a laugh. And it was needed, I think, for everybody.
I can imagine. Okay, well, look, thank you. It's been a great half an hour talking to you. I wish you every success. I think it's really exciting what you're trying to do. So I'm really looking forward to obviously seeing how you move us forward. It'll be really exciting. Congratulations on what you've done.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Yeah, cheers, Chris. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a great weekend.